Hello, I'm Ryan Cow, and welcome to my course on how to master your stress. So, today we are going to cover Module 1, Understanding Stress and Why You Feel This Way. Right? This is today's date. Here is my name, and let's get into it. All right, first of all, who am I? Why should you trust me? Right? So, as you can see right here, I've done a lot of cool stuff. Interned with Senator Cassidy. I worked around DC. That's a photo of me at the White House. I've been an Afrosti cadet for 3 years now. Been field training, which is like our boot camp, our encampment. This is a photo of me and my flight down here. I'm right here. I'm an accounting major at West Virginia University, and I ran a marathon. Um, Much more, right? But this is just a highlight of who I am and what I've done to add a little bit of credibility as to why I should be teaching you. So, to my audience, anyone, seriously, I'm going to make this as PG as possible. Stress affects everyone from all ages. I really emphasize and I understand where y'all come from. So here are our objectives today. Number one, we're gonna go over a no BS breakdown of what stress actually is and why it happens. Right? I think a lot of the time we understand that we're stressed, but we don't really know like what it is. So I'll cover that. Next, we're gonna cover how stress affects your brain and body. Pretty much fight or flight explained simply. The difference between acute stress, which is short term, and chronic stress, which is more long term. Right? A lot more detrimental to your health, but we'll go over it. And lastly, why stress feels like it's killing you, but it's not, right? Why your chest feels so tight, why your heartbeat and your blood pressure is so high. You'll be fine. Trust me. I've been through it. We can get you out of it. So let me move my camera. So what is stress? Right? So stress is simply your body's built-in system to survive, right? It's not some random bad thing. It's actually a natural response to keep you alive. Right? A lot of the time we see stress as bad, when in reality it's trying to help you out, right? The problem is nowadays it's actually being more harmful than good. Right? So think of it like this. Your brain detects a threat, whether it be real or perceived in your mind. And that will activate the fight or flight response, which pretty much will put adrenaline and cortisol in your blood system. This means that your heart rate will spike, your blood pressure will rise, and all your muscles will tense up. Right? I'm sure you guys have had these symptoms before. You all know what stress is. This prepares you to fight or escape the threat. The problem is your brain doesn't know the difference between a real threat, which is like a bear chasing you or a dinosaur or whatever, and a modern threat, which is like maybe you failed the exam, you got a really bad email, or you missed a deadline, right? Of course, those are still stressful, but we don't need the adrenaline and the cortisol in our system to deal with that, as we would when fighting a bear or an animal, right? And so the key takeaway that I want you to learn here is that when you become stressed, it's not the enemy, right? It's just a tool that's being misused in our daily modern lives. And more often than not, you create stress without even realizing it, right? When you overthink about the future, you get stressed. When you replay the past in your head, you get stressed, right? I'm sure we've all had those times where we're sitting down and all of a sudden we think of something that happened 5 years ago that does not even matter now, right? I'll be sitting there and I'll be like, man, remember when back in high school you did that cringe thing? I'm like, why would I even think of that? But you just do. And that makes you a little bit stressed. Also, not moving enough makes you stressed, right? Make sure to get up at least once an hour and stretch for like 5 minutes. It'll do wonders for you. Seriously, don't get too physically stagnated. So this is a nice little graphic that I found. But essentially, you get stressed, and then that will release adrenaline and cortisol in your system, which then leads to fast breathing. It converts glycogen in your blood to glucose. You get increased blood pressure. You become very tunnel vision, right? You all of a sudden your vision becomes way more narrow. You can't really see or focus as well. Your heart rate will accelerate, right? Your stomach will slow down when it comes to digestion, and we start sweating, right? You guys have all experienced it. I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about. So, how does stress actually affect your brain and your body, though? So, good question. So stress isn't just in your head. It like physically rewires your brain and body, which we just covered, right? And so when you experience stress, your nervous system will trigger a fight or flight response that impacts every system in your body, right? From your gut to your heart to your brain, everywhere. And so what happens when you're stressed? Well, I'll go by step by step. Step one. So your brain will see a threat or um, a perceived threat, real or imagined, right? And so your amygdala, the fear center, will activate, saying like, "Oh man, like we have a threat right now. I'm afraid we gotta deal with it," right? After that, the hypothalamus will signal an emergency response, like, "Oh yes, let's respond to it," right? We can't let this keep being afraid of it. Actually, let me do this real quick. My bad. There we go. Cool. Right. And then your body will release stress hormones, which are adrenaline and cortisol. Adrenaline is the more fast response, right? This is the one that increases your heart rate, your blood flow, makes you more alert. And then you have cortisol, which is more a long-term hormone, where it increases the sugar in your blood for energy, right? But essentially, your body will shift into survival mode, right? Your heart rate and blood pressure will spike up. This prepares you to react fast. Your muscles will tense up. This gets you ready to fight or escape, right? You get very tense, you're ready to act. Your breathing will quicken, and it does that to increase oxygen for immediate energy. And lastly, your digestion will slow down because your body prioritizes staying alive over eating food and digesting what you already have. And so your brain, this is what happens under stress. Essentially, the prefrontal cortex, the area of your brain that makes like choices and makes you focus, it actually shrinks, right? And this makes it harder to think clearly. Next, your amygdala, your fear center, it grows, which means more anxiety and you tend to overreact more. You ever realize when you're stressed or when someone else is stressed and you try to talk to them, you or them might snap, right? You tend to overreact over small stuff. That is your amygdala controlling you a little bit. And lastly, the hippocampus or your memory center, it weakens, right? It's hard to recall information. I know I'm a military guy. I've been in scenarios where I'm being very stressed. I'm being yelled at. It's hard to recall information that is very simple, right? Even like your name. At some points you're so stressed you don't even know like what your name is, and you're like, "Oh, like, what do I do?" Don't worry. In this course, we're gonna go over how to fix that, how to make it so that you can react better. So next, what is the difference between acute stress versus chronic stress? And so there we go. Like I said at the beginning, acute stress is more short term, and chronic stress is more a long term burnout. The killer is chronic stress, right? Being stressed short term is not always a bad thing, but when you're stressed long term, that's when it gets really bad. So acute stress, what is it? It's a quick, intense reaction to a very specific situation, right? So some examples I have is giving a speech, right? Maybe you are afraid of public speaking. Maybe you're in a car accident. Maybe you're trying to prep for an exam. This is very immediate stress, but it's normal, right? This is actually very normal and very healthy. And the effects are, you have increased heart rate and adrenaline, which boosts your focus and reaction time. And it can actually feel quite exciting for some people, right? Some people thrive on the idea of being stressed, of having to perform. I'm personally not one of those guys, but I do understand people who are. This is called eustress, which is like good stress, like stress that makes you do better. Or it can be overwhelming, which is distress. And it all depends on how you perceive it, right? If you say, "Oh man, I'm so excited, I'm pumped up," then you're gonna probably do better than if you say, "Oh man, I'm feeling so weak, so nervous," then you're gonna do worse, right? A lot of it is also perception. But the main thing is it resolves quickly. Once the situation is over, your body will return to normal, and that is good. Now, here is the bad part. Chronic stress. This is a long-term and very burnout-inducing. It is stress that you feel for weeks, months, or even years without any relief. Some examples are problem with finances, right? Maybe you're not making enough money, you're in poverty, right? I've been there, trust me. That's very stressful. Maybe you're in a toxic work or you're in a toxic relationship. Very stressful, right? Because you're very attached, you're very vulnerable. You're gonna get stressed, right? It's gonna suck. And one more example I have is persistent overthinking and anxiety, right? Your brain is always moving. You're always thinking, you can't rest. Your brain's always thinking. This one I understand the most, right? Sometimes it's hard to turn your brain off and just relax. I get it. Don't worry, in this course, we're going to get you better. And the effects are, well, you have a cortisol overload, right? You have too much cortisol. This leads to fatigue, brain fog, and your immune system gets weakened, which makes you more susceptible to illnesses, which is not great, obviously. You'll have increased risk of heart disease, depression, and burnout, right? When your heart rate is always elevated, when your blood pressure is always elevated, that's not good for your heart, right? You gotta get that down, get that to a balanced level. And lastly, your brain or body can never really relax. You're always in fight or flight, which, like I said, I've been there, I've done that. There's been times in my life where going to bed was the best part of my day because my body could finally relax. But as soon as I woke up, I looked back where I started. It was horrible living like that. We are going to fix you and get you back to normal. Do not worry. Last slide today. So why stress feels like it's killing you, but it isn't. So I'm sure you guys have been so stressed before in your life where your chest feels so tight, you think that you're gonna have a heart attack or maybe a gazillion other heart problems. Don't worry, it's not, right? I know the feeling of having a fast heartbeat. Your chest is tight, right? It's not fun, right? You're very dizzy. You're very short of breath, right? You're breathing too fast. It's not actually dangerous. It's caused by hyperventilation, right? You might get tingling or numbness, right? I've had it before in my brain. I thought I was having a stroke. That's not what it is, guys. Relax. Pretty much your blood flow will shift to your major muscles for fight or flight, which is why you'll tingle or feel numb in some areas, but the blood's not going there. And lastly, you'll have brain fog and you'll tend to forget things, right? Because high cortisol will disrupt your memory and your focus. It's all very normal. But here is the truth. Stress is not killing you, right? It's not. Your body is only doing what it is designed to do, which is prepare for action, right? It only becomes harmful if it's long-term, chronic, and unmanaged. The solution? Learn to recognize the symptoms as temporary and regain control, which I might go over. So when you first know that you're stressed, which is pretty obvious, just tell yourself, this is just stress, right? I'm not dying. It's only stress. I know that in the moment it's hard. Just believe me, this is only stress. And also, slow your breathing down. Deep, controlled breath. Breathe to your belly. Do not breathe shallowly with your chest. Actually, right now, do it with me, right? Breathe to your belly. Right? And if you can't do it, you can do it. Lie down and put your one hand on your stomach, one hand on your belly, and feel your belly rise, right? Or even do that right now. If you're truly belly breathing, you'll feel your belly rise. And if you can't feel it, lay down, you'll feel it. Next, we'll go over the hand technique, which I use a lot. I'll show you on camera. So look at my camera. Breathe in, going up. Breathe out, going down. Breathe in, going up. And out, going down. In, going up. And out, going down. And you just keep doing that until you do both hands, and do it for longer if you like. Whatever helps. Lastly, move your body, right? When you walk or do any sort of exercise, you kind of shake off that tension and you burn off your excess adrenaline, right? And lastly, shift your focus. Instead of, being doom and gloom, and catastrophizing, think, I felt this before, it'll pass. And you're still alive, right? You're still here, so you already know it'll pass, right? Don't get too worked up. Just be like, yeah, I felt this before. It'll pass. I'm okay. Right? Just keep saying that. Keep breathing deep. And actually, one more tip is that when you breathe, hold it in. Because your body needs that carbon dioxide to relax. So, right? In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, wait for 4. And I've heard people say, I can't hold my breath. I feel like I'm going to die. You just got to do it. It'll suck, but you'll feel better. So, questions, DM me on whatever platform this is posted, or you can email me at this email right here. I really hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all learned a lot, and I appreciate you watching me in sticking out. So that is all, and I'll see you for Module 2. Take care.